Welcome back to the onboarding series for Workshop Software. In today's video, what we're going to do is we're going to discuss how to do a customer invoice. There are several ways of doing customer invoices, and you can do them directly from the customer table, or you can come in here on the plus sign and you can go customer invoice and choose that. Conversely, you can also enter the customer's name in here. And you have the customer's name, you've got his record, and you can simply come to the green icon, which looks like an A4 page, and do an invoice from here. To begin with, what we would probably recommend is in order to get yourselves familiar with Workshop software, use this navigation button, because from here you can do everything that you generally need to do within the program. In this particular instance, we're going to do a customer invoice. Now, the customer is going to be a brand new customer. So what we're going to do is add the customer first. All right, his name is Bill Withers. So we come in here, we add Bill Withers. And again, as we mentioned in an earlier video, you want to get as much detail as you can about these customers in order to have a professional output on your documentation for them, and also so that you have nice clean records within your system. So we're going to go, great, Bill's mobile number, for example, is 782-139. As you can see, it formats for a mobile telephone number. His email address is billwithers@junkmail.com. And his address is 12 Acacia Lane, in the suburb of Cherrybrook. New South Wales is the state he lives in. There we go. And his postcode is 2407. That's excellent. Now, the preferred method of contact for Bill when we asked him was that he said, yeah, please get in touch with me via SMS. So I put that in there. Now, we're also tracking our marketing information. So I asked Bill how he found us, right? And he said, oh, I saw your Facebook page. So we said, okay, thank you very much for that. All right, we're going to save that. We now have a brand new customer, all right? And we are in the invoice mode. The next thing we need to do is we need to add a vehicle for Bill, all right? So the first thing I'm going to do is ask him for his registration number, and that's going to be XYZ879, okay? And he's driving a Subaru Forester. Come in there, Forester. That's great. Okay. The rest of the details I don't really need to get at this point in time, right? I can rely on my mechanics to actually give me that information. But he did tell us that, yes, it's a silver Forester. That's fine. That's great. The odometer reading will be given to us by the mechanic, okay, as well as the rest of this information. So I can now save that. So now I have a customer and I have a vehicle. And the minute that I can see the registration number for the vehicle up here next to the vehicle label, I know that this invoice is now attached directly to this vehicle. So that will become part of the history of that vehicle. So down here, it just so happens that Bill has actually told us that he needs to have a minor service done on his vehicle. So I have a bundle for a minor service. Okay, and a bundle is a very, very quick way in Workshop software of being able to choose all the parts that you need for a particular job and having it all pre-formatted so you don't have to add it every single time that you go to do an invoice. Right, so this is the bundle which I set up for a minor service. It's using repair labor, and it just tells me these are all the different parts which I may need for that minor service. The next thing I'd like to do is I'd like to come in here and go, I need to have invoice notes or the story to tell Bill Withers about what we did on his vehicle when it's finished. So I've created a template for a minor service. This would be found, okay, in the company lists page under invoice note templates. All right. And here it just tells us exactly what was done on the job. Now, for my mechanics, because I've got a couple of apprentices as well, right? I need them to be sure that they're going to do all the things that need to be done during a minor service. So again, I add a template and I go, great. There I have the instruction set for the mechanic. And you will notice that this template, okay, resembles this template almost completely. And it just gives a checklist for this. All right. Now I'm going to save that. Okay. This does not process the invoice. This just gives us all the relevant information for the invoice. Now, If we wanted to look at what this invoice looks like at this point in time, we could simply come across on the green bar, go all the way to the right, click on this icon on the far right-hand side, and go print me a copy of this invoice. And what I will see is this. There's my logo, there's the tax invoice, the date of the job number for the job. I didn't have an MVRL license number, so that's not appearing on the invoice at this point. And there is my address. Okay, that probably needs to be cleaned up a little bit because it doesn't look as neat as it could. But here I have a minor service, and because it's a bundle, it is aggregating both the labor items and also all of the parts and just giving me one price at this point. And then down below that, I have the invoice notes, which is what the customer will read when I hand him the invoice, and that has all of the details of what was done on his job. And down at the bottom, finally, I have the invoice notes, which are found in messages. And that's where I would have all of my banking details, my BSB, my account number, etc. All right. So this is what an invoice format looks like at this point in time. I'm going to close that for a moment. Now I'm going to print off the job card. Again, I come to the same point. I come to the green bar. I go to the far right-hand side, and I go job card. All right. This is what my apprentice would read. It gives him the customer's details, right? If for any reason while the car is up on the hoist or is in the workshop and we need to get in touch with the customer, there I have Bill Withers' mobile telephone number, so I can always get in touch with them. And here is where the mechanic can start to put in more information about the vehicle so we get more complete vehicle history, right? But in the first instance, it gives us the rego number, Subaru Forester, silver, right? That's it. That's where you can put in the odometer reading, and the job card number right now is 50005. This tells my mechanic basically the parts that he would need for this particular invoice. And this gives him a checklist of what he needs to do on the job in order to carry out the minor service. Okay. Down here is a section which is called comments. And this is where the mechanic can sit there and add any additional parts that he used on the job that may not have been on the list originally, and also make any notes or observations about what he found when he was doing the work on the vehicle. And then, of course, down here at the bottom, we have the invoice job notes, or sorry, the invoice footer. Sorry, the job card footer, where the customer can sign off on the job prior to actually doing the work. All right. And there is your job card. Now, all of that was done literally within the space of about 3 or 4 minutes. Okay. And if you use templates and you set up templates both for jobs and also for invoice notes and for job card notes, then you can process the workshop's basic work very, very quickly and not spend all of your day sitting in front of a computer. Now, that's a very, very brief overview of how to create an invoice for a customer using pre-formatted text and pre-formatted templates. The other thing that I'm going to do now is I'm going to show you another way that you can actually do an invoice. All right, so I'm going to get rid of all of this information by deleting it all. And the customer has driven in, or he's called up and he said, oh yes, okay, there's something wrong with my headlights, right? I'd like you guys to check that and repair it. So the basic information about the customer is already here. We've added that, we've added his vehicle, and now we can simply come in here and go, I need to add some repair labor to this. And I can put in a description, right, to check and fix headlights. All right, that is going to be the description which shows up on the invoice when we are actually presenting that. Down in the job card notes for my mechanics, what I can do is go check headlights. Right, I might also say check the electrical system. And replace parts as required. Right, I can save that. Okay, and now if we were to turn around and look at the invoice, this is what we would see. In there, I have labor to check and fix headlights. Okay, no invoice notes at this point in time. We're charging them a minimum of 1 hour at this point. All right, and again, you've got all the vehicle details and you've got the customer details, etc. Now, if I go to print the job card at this point, it's going to look slightly different. Again, I have all of Bill's information, I have all the vehicle information, and here's the instruction set. It's basically, it's repair to check and fix the headlights. The mechanic's got about an hour to do it. All right. And here's an instruction set for him. It just says check the headlights, check the electrical system, replace parts as required. And again, he can put in whatever notes he would like. And if you wanted the customer to sign off on the job card, then the customer would sign off on that before you started the work. So that is two different ways that you can actually create a customer invoice. Now, in this particular instance, what we did was, I think I have some globes in the system. Right, headlight globes. Now, it turns out that we were going to replace two of those. Okay, that's fine. All right, so two of them, we sell them for $6.75, so it calculates that out automatically. And this is the cost for those headlights, or those headlight globes, that's fine. And in here, we have the mechanic being charged out at $110 per hour. All right, now, that's all fine and dandy, and there we have an invoice. And theoretically, we could turn around and simply go, yes, that's fine. That's what we're going to give to the customer. All right. However, if we actually look at this invoice and we come into the star here on the green bar and click on analysis, this is something that we can do every time that we run an invoice, right? It says that, yes, we've sold pre-GST or pre-tax, right? We've sold $100 worth of labor. But lo and behold, it hasn't cost us anything. So we've made a wonderful profit on that, all right? However, it's probably not very close to the truth because your mechanics, you do have to pay them, right? So what we want to do is we want to capture the mechanic's time for that. Now, in here, we have stock, and we said, yes, it's $12.27. It costs us $7.55. So we've made a profit of $4.72 or 38%, all right? This is a very, very powerful tool within Workshop software, which quickly enables you to actually sit here and work out exactly how much profit you're making on every single job that you do, right? We're going to close that by going done, okay? And the key to getting that information in the analysis is that A, you have the sell price for everything, which is going to be standard on any invoice, but also you need to put in how much you've paid for something, okay? The stock, you will get that information by entering your supplier invoices. And in here, you're going to get the mechanics information by either coming here and manually entering the data for how long a mechanic has done the job. So if we go in here, we go Bill Blogs, was the mechanic who worked on the job. All right. And let's say that Bill started on the job at 9:05, okay, and finished on the job at 10:30. All right. And we save that. This is the manual way of entering a mechanic's hours that he's worked. The other way of doing it is to use the mobile app, and Bill Blogs logs onto the job when it's been assigned to him, and he clocks on when he starts the job at whatever time, and he clocks off when he finishes the job. So we've saved this detail. We're going to go back to the invoice for a moment. And now, if we save this and come and look at the analysis again, we should see a slightly different read. All right, we've sold $100 worth of labor. It's cost us $48.28. So we've made about $51.72 or 51% profit. Okay, this is probably a more realistic analysis of how much that invoice is making the workshop in terms of profitability. All right, so we're going to save that. Done. Now, you also see that, yes, it's a cost. You can use this particular feature anytime that you'd like when you're doing an invoice. We probably recommend that you do it because it will point out very, very quickly for you any errors that might be showing up in the invoice itself. All right, valuable information that you can only do while you've got the invoice open, right? It's a little bit more difficult to put that information after the invoice has been processed. Every once in a while, you may also have customers, and they may say, before you start any work, we need to give you a purchase order number. So you can come in here and you can enter the purchase order number, all right, for the work that's going to be done. All right, there's the posting date for the invoice. If you choose to make a quote for a customer or an estimate, okay, you simply come to the invoice type, click the drop-down menu, and then you can do a quote, okay? This, for example, if I did it now, would actually convert this invoice into a quote. So if I do that and I save, and I come in there, okay, when I went to print that document, it says print quote. So here, if I look at that, now you can see that it is an estimate. Okay, and you're saying you believe that it's going to take about 1 hour, and quite possibly you're going to end up using these two parts, right? The rest of it looks exactly the way that an invoice looks. There could be invoice notes. You could have a whole story of what you would like to tell the customer about what you're going to do when you do the job. And again, here's the footer for your estimates. All right, so you may sit there and go, yes, the estimate is valid for 14 days or whatever, and whatever terms and conditions you choose, right? This information would have been given to you in one of the earlier videos. So please make sure that you go into your messages section in Workshop software and make sure that you have all of your footers filled out. So we're going to come back to the invoice. Okay, now, when we did a bundle, okay, everything aggregated together because it was all combined together and it said it's labor and parts and so on. This is slightly different because now what we have is we have parts that are being added to the job and labor separated. So if we save and we come and look at the invoice now, we're going to see that it looks slightly different. I'm going to change that back from a quote to an invoice. All right, save that. Come in here and let's look at the invoice now. As you can see, it separates out the labor and the parts. They're in two separate sections, and they subtotal at the bottom of each section and aggregate down at the bottom and say, okay, the invoice is worth $123.50. All right. So those are the two different ways that you can actually lay out invoices. They can be very, very quick and simple using bundles and pre-formatted templates, or they can be a little bit more what's the word I would look for? Work intensive insofar as you have to put in separate descriptions for every single thing that you're doing. All right. But that should give you a very good insight into the two different formats that you can use for setting up invoices. That concludes this particular video. Please don't forget, you can always come into the knowledge base in the help guides and resources and look up anything to do with any articles relative to how to do invoices, how to prepare them, how to manage parts on invoices, etc. And you will find all kinds of either YouTube or articles, which should really, really help you get along and get up and running with Workshop software sooner. Thank you very much for your time. I hope this has been beneficial, and I'll look forward to talking to you again in the next video.